keep accidentally activating all of my toggles. How does that happen? How does that happen? Hold on. Let me... Wait. I got it. I got it. Okay. I think we should be all set up now. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me okay? Is the volume all right? There is no background music currently or anything. But hello? Oh my god, I'm so nervous. We can hear you? Good. God, that'd be super awkward if I go on and I find out I'm muted or something. Could you imagine? That'd be just my luck. Oh my gosh. I'm so nervous. It's been so long since we had a segment of Talk Story to Me. I'm so excited. And definitely not hyperventilating. Definitely not doing that. That's not happening. Everything is a-okay. It's okay. Breathe. Everything's fine. But yes, welcome in, everyone. Happy Friday night. Hope it has been an excellent day for everyone. And if not, it's Friday, so, like, how can that ever be, bad? How can Fridays ever be bad? Let's be honest. So, if this is your first time for a Talk Story to Me segment, because it has been a while since our last one, Talk Story to Me is a series I do, not super often, where I interview authors live on stream. We talk about their books, their writing process, publication journey, and just discuss their books and, like, the craft of writing. I'm so excited. There was a very long stretch of time where no one was really replying to my invitations to come on. And, like, I totally get that. I totally understand, like, not wanting to be interviewed online by an anime girl. But I was just so happy when Steven Salvatore said yes, because I love his books. I love his books so much. So not only was I thrilled to finally get a reply, but I got a reply from someone I am so beyond excited to have on. Oh my gosh. Of course, the more excited I am, the more nervous I am also. So there is that. Deep breaths. Okay. Everything's gonna be fine. I will not make a total mess of myself. Not this time. You've got this. Thank you. I feel like everyone always tends to say I sound intelligent after it's done, but I'll be honest, I usually get so nervous I just black out for, like, the entire segment. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm getting things set up in the background here. I usually just black out in the middle of it, because I'm trying so hard to be, like, professional and, like, ask good questions, and I think I'm focusing so hard that everything just kind of disappears. You literally blanked out there. I did. It happens. I'm so nervous. I feel like the more I say it, the less nervous I become. So if it seems like I'm saying it a lot, it's because I'm hoping saying how nervous I am will calm me down. That is usually what works, especially with, oh my god, especially with public speaking. Usually if I, like, make a joke out of, oh yeah, I'm super nervous, and get a good laugh out of everyone first, then I feel so much more confident going in. That's my public speaking tip. If you tell everyone how nervous you are, you will feel a little less nervous, and people tend to be much more forgiving if you make mistakes, because they know you're nervous. He's in the call and I think he hears you. Oh my god. Arg, don't freak me out like that. Also, I'm not in the call, so, hopefully he would not be able to hear me. Don't freak me out like that! Arg! You're gonna make me have a panic attack. Okay. But we should start the call, because that's in, now. Alright. Welcome everyone to Talk Story to Me, the live stream segment slash series where we interview authors live on stream. It has been a hot second since our last guest because timing is entirely dependent on whether authors say yes or no. So there was a bit of a stretch where I wasn't really getting any yeses, but oh my god, today I am so excited to have on Steven Salvatore, the author of YA romances such as And They Lived, as well as his newest book, When Love Gives You Lemons, in addition to several other books and even an adult romance. So definitely be sure to check him out and support our guest author. Now, let us go ahead and join the call. And as a reminder, everyone in chat is welcome to ask questions as long as they are respectful throughout the interview. So if there's anything you want to know, feel free to ask in chat. Okay. Hi!
Hi.
Sorry, my camera will be off.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
I just finished reading When Love Gives You Lemons this morning, and oh my god, it was so good.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so excited to talk about it. I mean that'll probably be later because that's your most recent book, but I just wanted to
Sure.
let you know. Oh my god, it was so good.
Oh my
Um,
God, thank you. That's so exciting.
but would you like to introduce yourself for our viewers?
Sure, sure. I'm Steven Salvatore. I'm the author of a bunch of books, Can't Take That Away, And They Live, No Perfect Places, The Boyfriend Subscription. This is in chronological order. And most recently, When Love Gives You Lemons.
So how did you get started in writing? Was it a passion you always had since you were a kid? Was it something you developed later in life? Like what was kind of the start of it all?
Yeah, so I've always been a writer in some way, shape, or form. When I was little, I tell this all the time, but the first thing that I truly remember writing for myself was basically the equivalent to like Lion King fan fiction when I was like 7 or 8 back in the early 90s. And yeah, I was like, I wasn't satisfied with the ending of The Lion King. I wanted more. I wanted to know what happens next.
Hmm.
So, my working theory is that like Disney had a tap on me, and so then The Lion King 2 came out, and I was like, oh, that's very similar to the story that I had in my head. Uh, so I'm
Yeah.
taking full credit for that.
As you should, as you should.
I'll probably get sued tomorrow, so you know.
No, I always love when everyone says like they got their start in writing fan fiction because I was the same way. Like I didn't really start writing my own stories. I started with Warrior Cats fan fiction, and that's just how I started writing. So it's always so like encouraging to hear when people started as like fanfic writers, no matter their age.
Yeah, for sure. It's I never like really got into fan fiction. I and it's funny because I've read some fan fiction. Obviously I dabbled in it myself, but I never really knew that there was this like whole fan fiction community until I feel like I was too old to really like get into it. And I was like, oh, I think I missed my time. I'm like,
No, never too old for fan fiction. Never. I mean that very sincerely. You are never too old for fan fiction.
that's good. That's good to know. That's good to know. Maybe I'll dabble back in.
You should. It's a fun field.
Yeah,
So, was the first book you wrote from beginning to end the first one you published or
not at all. Not at all. So the first book that I wrote, a complete manuscript, was I was a sophomore in college. This was back in like 2006. Um, I thought that I was writing like the next great American novel. I thought it was going to be like this huge, like this poignant like piece that was going to move the world. And it was, I mean, it was utter trash. It was just like it was so bad. I still have it. I have all of the drafts for everything that I've ever written filed away in folders on my computer. um, but the main character of that story ended up becoming Chase in And They Lived. So
Oh.
it was like his name, the name was Chase. It carried through. I rewrote that book like 7 times before I got to like its current iteration of Chase's story. But yeah, that was like the first book that I ever wrote, was a story about Chase that was garbage and not at all what Chase's story actually is. But I just couldn't let go of that character. And I've written lots of other manuscripts since then that have gone nowhere, um, but that I've taken stuff from. So, like in Can't Take That Away, I took a couple of characters from something that I wrote that I queried. I couldn't get a literary agent for, and so I ended up shelving that project. But I was like, I really love these two characters, Monroe and Joey, and I want to put them into something new. So I was like, all right, copy and paste these characters into this new story that I'm writing, and it worked out really well. So I kind of do that. Like if I write something and I love it, but it doesn't end up going somewhere, like I'll scrap it for parts.
I love that because you're basically just taking like the characters and putting them into a story that actually fits them rather than where you thought they fit.
Exactly, exactly. Because sometimes stories just don't work out, and you got to pivot and you got to figure out something new. So that's something that I've learned along the way for sure.
I bet. Oh, someone in chat asked, are there any manuscripts you really want to revisit and hope to see published one day?
Oh boy. I might be afraid of that. Only because I know that I've grown so much as a writer, especially within the last like 5, 6 years, that anything that I've written before that, like I've gone back and I've read through some things, but like it gives me the ick because I'm like, ooh, this is really not good. Like maybe there's some setting details, and I have, you can ask anybody in my life, I have a horrible memory. Um, if you've ever been a reader in my DMs being like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this happened to this character." I'm like, "Oh, did it?" Because it's been a while. I don't really know. I can barely remember what happened. But when I am writing something new, I will be like, "Oh my god, I wrote this scene in this book like 8 years ago that never ended up going somewhere. Like, let me pull up that file, let me try to find that scene." And I'll be like, oh, this is actually like pretty good, this like these 2 paragraphs here. And I'll copy and paste that, and then obviously like edit it for the current story that I'm writing. But um that's pretty much as far as I would go, like revisiting older manuscripts, just because my writing has changed so much. But every once in a while, past me had some moments of brilliance that I have recycled.
Yeah, and I mean, that makes total sense because I feel like it's hard to go back to old work when you realize how much you've improved as a writer and how much your own writing style has changed. And you look back at some of your old ideas, and it's hard to be as passionate about them as you were at the time. So that makes sense.
100%.
So, I guess, how did your actual publishing journey begin? Did you start kind of the traditional way with querying literary agents, or did you go a non traditional path?
So I started querying literary agents pretty much after I graduated undergrad in 2000. Well, it was really 2009. I graduated in 2008, and I started querying in 2009 when I thought that the current manuscript that I was working on was the next great thing. Meanwhile, like I have every rejection that I ever got, and this was still when you had to query using snail mail, like email queries, query forms, like none of that really existed yet, even though it was 2009. It feels like it wasn't that long ago, but everything I had to query snail mail. And I remember like getting like my letter back with a rejection letter being like, yeah, like we don't represent what you're trying to sell here? And I like, I've gone back and I've reread the query, and it was like, this is literary fiction, but it's also middle grade, and it's fantasy, but it's also contemporary. And I had no freaking clue what I was doing at however 22 or 23, however old I was when I was querying, because all I had to go on were books that, at that point, like, there wasn't tons of websites out there on how to query. It was all like,
Mm.
buy a book that was maybe published within the last year or so with like all these literary agents listed in there. Then you can go cross reference on their website and, try to find out as much information as you can. um but yeah, it was a wild journey, that changed over time because they got away from snail mail, and then it was email queries and query forms, and it took me 9 years and, I don't know, 8 different manuscripts, and three, I think, by the time I got my agent that sold my first book, um it it was like over 350 rejections. um
That's a
but
lot of
I
resilience.
was young and dumb and just like, fully, I had this vision of like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be writing. I'm supposed to be querying. I will get there. Um, and I'm glad that I was delusional, because that process taught me a lot about writing. Um, I had to continuously push myself to improve. Um, and I think without that, I don't know that I would have. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great way to look at it and such a great positive outlook on the whole querying process because it can feel so defeating and so like because it's your own personal work too. So when people are rejecting it, even though you know it's subjective, it feels like objective. You feel like they're insulting your own a part of you. So that's really amazing that you like kept going and kept improving and had such a positive outlook through all of that.
I tried. It was hard. It was hard. I wanted to give up, and I thought I gave up multiple times, but giving up didn't last very long.
It was a Colin.
Hmm.
Someone had a follow up question. Are there any of your published works you'd like to have done differently with how you've grown as a writer?
Yes. Um, I would. There's a couple things and Can't Take That Away that I would probably revise a little bit more. Um, just choices that I made, that maybe reflect more of who I've become as a writer. But I mean, I'm very grateful for that book. I love that book. Um, it put me on a map. I don't know which map, but a map. So like, I will always love that book. It means a lot um to a bunch of people that, I know that it has had an impact. So yeah, it's hard. Maybe the Boyfriend Subscription, which was my adult romance debut. Just because when I originally wrote that book, it wasn't a Harlequin romance. It was more of like a general fiction book with a romance in it.
Okay.
And I I I don't know. It was a hell of a lot longer than it is now. I had to cut so much to fit in with Harlequin's like publication specifications. Um and yeah, I don't I part of me wishes that I had maintained my original vision for that book. Um because it just had a very different tone and a very different feel than what it is now. Even though I love it, I love that book. Um, I love all my books. I feel like I'm talking bad about my kid. I don't have kids, but like, I feel like I'm like, well, this one could have been prettier, and this one could have been, a
No.
little bit more athletic.
I think
but I don't know.
I think that's fair though, and it's all. I feel like it's always really hard when your view and vision of a book clashes somewhat with like the editor or publishers, and you have to kind of make compromises that you might not have necessarily wanted to. I feel like that's always like a really hard spot to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really really tough spot to be in. It's like And They Lived was a very seamless, smooth editing process. Like my editor was gung ho about it. Like basically what it sold as is what got published, obviously with just cleaning up grammar and syntax and stuff. um No Perfect Places went through a heavy editing process, and I got a lot of pushback on that book, but I stayed true to that vision as well. Um, so yeah, those, and then When Love Gives You Lemons, like I to me, it's my favorite book. Um, Even though And They Lived is it's And They Lived is really my favorite kid, but When Love Gives You Lemons is like right up there.
Well, I'm glad that those are the two that I had a chance to read before we talked. And I Lived is the one that made me want to have you on so that I could ask you all of my burning questions. And then when I read When Love Gives You Lemons, I was like, oh, this is so good. I have so many questions. I have so many questions.
I love that. I love it. I will do my best to answer based on my memory.
That's very fair. I don't remember things I wrote the day before, so just to the best of your ability.
I do my best.
So, something that I was really impressed by in both And They Lived and When Love Gives You Lemons is you are so good at distilling so much information like up front, like even just in the first chapter without making it feel info dumpy or like you're getting lost with all of these different characters and cast. Like you just introduce so much all at once and you do it so seamlessly that I never felt confused. How do you kind of balance like introducing all these new elements without overwhelming the reader?
I don't know. I truly have no idea. Honestly, writing beginnings is uh, it's a mind fuck. Can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It's a mind fuck because you want to put readers in the middle of something, but not something that they're going to get fully lost in a bad way, right? Like you want the world to feel real, you want readers to be immersed, you want the characters to feel like fully realized people from the start, but like you said, you don't want to be info dumpy. But at the same time, there are certain pieces of information that readers need to know as they're getting into it. And I don't really know how I do that. I do know that I spend a lot of time on the opening chapters. Um, and I can't move on until that opening chapter is as close to what I hope it is supposed to do as possible. Um, Obviously, like through the various revision processes, it changes shape a little bit. There's more added. There's stuff taken away. There's stuff moved around to different places. But I try to capture the feeling from the jump, and I think it's just like toiling. I think it's just like getting in there, figuring things out. But I think the biggest part of my process is that I don't start anything unless I know exactly who the character is. Um, like I just A lot of writers will just start writing, a scene will come, and then like right on the page, just go for it. I am very much somebody who needs the character to have a voice before I even get into the actual story. Um, yeah, so I have an idea in my head, but I'm like, I need to know who this character is before I get into this new world that I'm conjuring up.
That makes sense. How do you tend to find that character voice? Because I know there are some writers who kind of discover it along the way while they're writing. So you said you don't move on from the beginning until you know, but how do you kind of discover who they are?
Um, geez, that's I when a character comes to me, I let them live in my head for a little while. Um, I've always done this thing where, like, when I'm alone, I, like, think and act like the character, and I talk to myself like a crazy person, and I have, like, full-on conversations as if, like, I'm this other character, and there's another character in the car with me while I'm alone. And, to an outside person, it might seem like, oh, maybe I'm singing a song, maybe I'm just a little bit nuts. But I have to almost like step into their shoes metaphorically and physically, um, so that I can figure out like who are they, what makes them tick, what are the things that they fear, what do they want, what do they need, what are they lacking, um, and then usually once I have all of that information, I have an idea of like what they look like, then I can actually get into the story. And then as I'm in the story, I eventually figure out what the full arc of their character is going to be. Like that's something that I don't plan out. Um, it just kind of happens.
Okay.
I guess.
So you don't tend to know the end before you start writing.
I know the feeling. Like I
Okay.
know that what I want the ending to feel like, what I want readers to kind of come away with. Um, but I have no idea exactly how things are going to end. I'm very much a pantser when it comes to writing. I like when I get to a certain point in the project, in any project, I will do like a very basic outline, like, okay, here's the arc of act one, here's the arc of act two, here's the arc of act three. I generally tend to do like 3 act structures, and I'll do like a couple bullet points of like, this happens, this happens, this happens, but I have no idea how any of that stuff happens. I am just going to allow the characters to get there. And then if they don't get there, there's a reason for it. It's they didn't want to go there, so I'm not going to force them.
Someone in chat asked, have you ever ditched an idea halfway through, or do you try to force yourself to press on?
It depends. If something isn't working, I I do kind of get the idea pretty early on. Um, I won't beat a dead horse. I've done that in the past. Didn't work out very well. And I've learned to listen to myself when like my motivation and my passion isn't there. I'm not going to force it. And that's usually what happens is like, oh, I'm like, I thought I was really passionate about this idea or this project. But then as I'm going towards it or through it, it's really not clicking for me. And it's not, I need to be driven in order to writing a book is hard. It's a lot of work. It's a lot, like it's very time intensive. Like I basically disappear for like 1 to 2 months from like my entire life. So if I'm gonna do that, like this book needs to be worth it.
Not to mention, you have to keep coming back for like edits and revisions, so you have to keep rewriting it basically. So you want to make sure it's something you're enjoying if you're going to spend that much time poring over it again and again.
Yeah.
So you said that it sounds like there's a mix of kind of pantsing and upfront, at least to some extent, planning. I was curious if you plan any of the themes that come out in your book in the beginning, or if they kind of come up as you're going through. Especially with When Love Gives You Lemons, I was so impressed with how well you handled so many different themes, like environmental conserva- conservationism, I can speak, Italian culture, and even like views on like how straight culture views like queer expression of sexualism, and like how all of these felt so balanced. I was curious if you went into it with all of these already planned out, or if they were themes you discovered as you were writing.
The the um the environmental stuff, the conservation, the efforts of the lemon farms and all of that, that was intentional from the start. And that really came from me going to Amalfi and like I took a tour of a lemon farm, and just everything that I learned there, and just how much everything is impacted by climate change. And this is really like, this is a local product, and their local economy like heavily depends on their agriculture. Um, and so that was something that like I knew when this story came to me and where I was setting it, I knew that this was what it was like, that this was going to come up. I didn't know like how much. I didn't really plan on like I'm going to balance it, like it's going to be like X percentage. It was just like when I got there, I'll feel my way through it. Um, with the other stuff, just like queer culture and like the commentary there, that was something that, I mean, I don't care, I'll be brutally honest, like
Please
I'm
do.
the tea. So I am definitely, I'm somebody who I'm the kid that likes to touch the fire, and like it's hot, I still go back for it. Like I don't learn my lesson. So I've for the last like 5 years, I've been compulsively reading reviews of my books. And it just feels like there's so much like non-queer people commenting on my books, and it's like these books are not written for you.
Hmm.
Sorry. If you don't like it, I don't care, but you're reading them, so like, and then you're taking the time to like comment about how they don't fit your tastes cuz they're not for you. Um so I was in that mindset while I was writing Lemons of like, you know what? Fuck you. I need to write this because this is pissing me off, and like
Hmm.
this book ain't for you, and I hope you read this after you bashed my former books. So because I'm speaking directly to you. And so that's like, again, I'm the kid that touches the fire and doesn't learn his lesson.
No,
But
I loved
that's
that.
the headspace I was in.
I loved seeing that, and I don't know, it was so like refreshing to finally see someone say, "Hey, straight people, get out of queer spaces and stop trying to like destroy it from the inside and put it down and make people feel bad about queerness because it doesn't fit your specific taste or image of how it should be." It was God, it was just so like I felt so happy reading it. I was so happy you included that.
Yeah.
So it
Thank
was
you.
very nice to see. Thank you.
Appreciate that. It was, yeah, it was very much like, I'm raging against like everybody who has ally in their fucking profile bios. Like, get out of my space. You are
Mm.
not an ally. Take your rainbow flag out if you're not queer, because I don't need to know that you're a safe space, because you're probably not if you're not actually a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Like, if you're just saying you're an ally, you're chances are you're not throwing your body in front of mine if something were to happen. You're
Mm.
probably safe inside. So
Mm.
I have no love for those readers, to be quite honest.
Yeah, allies in name only are, yeah, as you
Not out.
basically just everything you just said.
That's my little anger piece of the day.
Oh, no, not at all. Feel free to let it out. That's what we're here for. Oh yeah, and the writing stuff too,
This
I guess.
therapy. This is a therapy session then.
Yeah, you didn't know it, but actually I sensed some deep-seated anger and I was like, we got to get this guy on.
Love it. I'm here for it.
So kind of the same thing with like And They Live. Did you plan to have like all of the different subplots going on with that, like with dealing with mental health disorders and eating disorders, going back to like friendships and how they were not the friends they seemed they were, like all of these really cool subplots that all kind of came together seamlessly? Were they all something that you planned initially, or did you discover some of these as you were writing?
Um, I think a lot of that was intentional, but like subconsciously intentional. Because when I sat down and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna exhume Chase from the grave and bring him in and write his story from the ground up again for like the seventh time. It's this whole new story. This is the story. This is the vision. I finally figured out how I'm going to use him, because like his story is crystal clear to me. So I sat down and I really wrote it from beginning to end. And a lot of what was going on in that book was stuff that I either had been going through myself or had gone through in the past. And so I was kind of just like channeling a lot of that into Chase, who, had been with me since I was, 19 years old. So, and even before that, his character has been with me. So, um, yeah, it was like it was intentional. Everything about what transpired in that book was intentionally done. Um, I don't know that I don't think that I sat down and I was like, I'm going to talk about this, this, this. It was just like part of the story.
Yeah, I guess that's why it came across like so naturally.
I tried.
You succeeded. So you said you challenged a lot of your own personal experiences. Did it ever become like there are some very like heart-wrenching moments in that? Was it ever hard to kind of shield your own mental health while writing about like when Chase is going through like a really difficult time and an especially low point in the book? Did you ever have trouble like kind of separating yourself from that mental space, or did it feel like he was separate enough from you that that wasn't really an issue?
I think it was more so the fact that like I had gone through what I needed to go through, and like I processed my own traumas and experiences enough so that when I incorporated them into Chase's story, I wasn't I don't want to say I wasn't impacted because that makes me sound like a psychopath. Um, but, but like I was able to not even separate myself, but like just say like this is what the story needs. And even though I'm emotional about it as I'm writing it, like I'm not letting it impact my own mental health because I've already done the work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, that
that's kind of yeah.
sounds like a very healthy way of approaching it, like making sure that the issues that you're writing about are things that you've already kind of worked through yourself. So you have a better place of understanding and you can kind of tell yourself, I'm not in this space anymore. I have gone through this already. It sounds like a really
Yeah.
healthy approach.
It is, and I'm glad that I'm talking it through now because I'm like, oh wow, my mental health is great. Like I'm like, I really did it, guys. Like this is wonderful.
Oh,
But
that's
I'm really
excellent.
not as I'm really not as put together as this conversation is making it out to seem.
Is anyone ever, though?
No,
We
no,
all,
we're all just messes, honestly.
yeah, we just all have varying degrees of good public masks that we put on.
Yes, very that.
So, something I really enjoyed about all of your books is your characters always seem to have a passion about something, whether it's writing, animation, woodworking. Are these topics that you already had an interest in, or did you research them specifically for the characters you were writing about?
So animation with Chase specifically, yeah, I mean all my books, like the main character in Can't Take That Away wants to be, a diva singer. Um, and they Chase and They Lived wants to be an animator for Disney. And that came from me when I was a teen, and even before that, like before I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to be an animator. Like that was the dream. And I had a teacher in high school that basically told me that I sucked. Use the word sucked, by the way. I
Oh,
will never forget that.
holy
And I
crap.
hope he's rotting somewhere. I believe he's dead. So good.
What a horrible
Um,
teacher.
really, really horrible teacher. And I'm
Oh.
glad he's dead. Actually, I'm just kidding. That's bad juju. But um, but yeah, Chase like going to school for his dream. was really like me having the opportunity to do that.
Aw.
Um, so and like as far as like the research component goes, like that as the kid that touches the fire and doesn't learn, as I've read through like every single review that I've ever gotten of And They Lived, there's so many that are like, that's not how animation works, that's not how art school works. And I'm like, I'm writing a fucking book. Like, y'all believe that like a 10-year-old boy wizard fucking saved the world from an evil snake man, but you cannot believe that a 19-year-old is going to college and is like animating a short in a couple months. Like, come on, suspend your disbelief for one fucking second.
Hmm.
Like, it that part pisses me off because I did a lot of research. I know how much time it actually takes. I chose to ignore it for the sake of plot and pacing and the story, because I'm like, the story doesn't work if he takes friggin' 4 years to come up with a short. Like, I've now aged him out of the genre that I'm writing in. So
Yeah.
like, I made deliberate choices to speed up the timeline considerably, not because I wanted it to be like a realistic, like he's going to art school and this is what actually happens when you go to art school, because I knew from my own research and my own knowledge that that's not the case. And those are choices that like every single writer has to make. Like, how realistic do I want this? Like, you want it to be believable, but at the same time, there are choices made to serve plot.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, story and characters are always what should come first. And it's fiction, it's not a real life story. So I feel like condensing that timeline to make the most sense for the story and the character's arc, like that just seems like it would be common sense,
Yeah.
but I guess not.
Yeah, no, sometimes common sense just doesn't, just doesn't.
Isn't
Yeah.
so common.
Yeah. I'm like, let me stop myself before I get myself into trouble. But I'm there. I'm in my like no fucks era, so
It's a good era to be in. I can't wait until I get there. So, I guess kind of on that note, another thing I really enjoyed is even when like hard topics were being discussed, there's so much amazing humor, especially with And They Lived. Like how are you so funny while simultaneously talking about like a very serious like eating disorder? How do you balance that humor with something kind of rough to talk about?
I don't know. I feel like, with something like that, I think it's because like, so well, I don't want to generalize. So I'll just use myself. I mean, humor is a pretty powerful coping mechanism. Um and I've always used humor to cope with certain things. I surround myself with people that have very similar senses of humor, um, to me, because, I don't know. I think being able to laugh and like enjoy, you know, the same things in the same manner is just a great way to get through life. And like, usually, like, I don't jive with people in real life who can't make me laugh or I can't laugh with, or even laugh at in a very like loving way. Um, because yeah, I don't know, life is way too short to like not laugh. And obviously there are many topics that need to be taken seriously. And I just kind of approach it as that rule of like, if I haven't gone through this myself, maybe I'm not the right person to write this, so I'm not going to attempt something that I haven't personally been through. So if I've been through it, I'm going to write I'm going to write it my way because it's what's authentic to me. And some people it really resonates for, and others it has fallen flat. Um I've seen that criticism of like the eating disorder, subplot in And They Lived is, very underbaked, and like you don't hear about it for like a whole chapter. And I'm like, well, are the characters just supposed to say like, hi, remember me, I have an eating disorder and I am struggling with it currently, like every other page? Like, that's not really how eating disorders show up in real life, like when you suffer from that, like you do a lot to ignore it and push it down,
Mm.
until you have no choice but to be confronted by it. And, like, there are other ways that it bubbles to the surface, some that you recognize and some that you fully don't recognize are symptoms or products of that. Um, so yeah, I don't even know if I've answered your question. I don't even know where.
No. No, you definitely did. And also, I can't believe someone had that complaint because I thought it was so well done, especially with how it was tied to his mental health and self-esteem. Like, of course, that's when it would like crop up the most. Like, I don't know, the way you depicted it like made sense to me. It's like any mental health disorder or just any disorder in general. Like, it's not present every single moment of your life. It, like you said, boils to the surface when certain triggers happen, whether you're aware of them or not. So I thought it was very genuinely portrayed.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think, when writers are writing a character and a scene and a full story and everything is fleshed out, like there's so much that's being juggled, and there's
Mm.
so much that's not on the page that is inferred, that you plant stuff in, and you allow it to grow as the exposition grows, um and it's impossible to bring everything up at all times.
And I don't think it would necessarily be good if you did. Like, I don't think any reader wants to be constantly hit over the head with, hey, remember this? This is still a thing. I think that's part of why I was so impressed with how you do handle like so many different themes and subplots because they are not constantly in the picture, but you're constantly aware of them like in the background even if it's not being explicitly stated. So I just thought you did a really good job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, we have a question from chat.
Yeah.
Tangential question. With having done the Pride Book Fest along with the topics and themes in your books, how do you hope to impact and help those who can connect with what you're doing?
Oh my gosh. That's a very large question. And I think that's just something that it's an undercurrent, overcurrent, current in everything that I do. Yeah, Pride Book Fest. Shout out to Pride Book Fest. That was fun during COVID. Um, with my books, with what I do, my day job, I teach, I work with students in higher ed. Um, I think it's just I I just want to show up authentically. I mean, now in the world that we live in, the time that we live in, like the Trump 2.0, like we just sorry, I didn't want to bring up the orange buffoon, but I
No,
must
it's hard
because
not to.
yeah, it like in answering a question like that, I mean, he is the orange elephant in the room because there's so much to be afraid of. And
Mm.
I don't want to like be a fear monger at all right now, but there's a lot to fucking fear. And like I'm personally like not all that comfortable being out in public. Like I no longer like I was never somebody who was like afraid to hold my husband's hand in public. And now I'm literally looking over my shoulder because I'm like, especially the area that I live in, I'm in New York State, and um before the election, you knew who the Trump supporters were because they had all the flags, they had all the bumper stickers on their car. Since the election, all that shit's come down. So we don't know like who's
Mm.
supported, like am I in a safe space? I don't know that. So like if I go out and I do an event or if I want to put together an event, do I even feel comfortable in like branding myself as LGBTQ because I fear strange people who do really evil shit. Um and that's a horrible way to think, and a horrible answer to that question, I got to tell you.
I think it's
But
just an unfortunate reality, though, to not acknowledge that this is unfortunately reality. As much as we don't want it to be, the US just isn't a safe place for queer people right now, and it hasn't been for since Trump made it normalized. Like, there were always homophobes before Trump, but now he's made it more normal and acceptable to be homophobic, and that has spread and it taken root, and it's literally dangerous now. So I don't think
yeah,
facing that reality is
we have to we have it was like all the racists who hid under their covers while Obama was president, and then Trump came along and they're like, hey, guess what, guys, we could be racist again. It's not to the same degree, because comparing racism to homophobia is apples to oranges.
mm,
um but I think that there is like a logical comparison in terms of like how people act. It's like for a while the general public were like, yay for gay if it's far away, and like
mm,
like you're not doing shit in front of me, but like cool, I guess, for you. And now it's like, oh no, there's public enemy number one is the trans community. And we're open, like everybody is just openly like, fuck the trans community, like we're coming for you.
it's so
And
disgusting.
it's awful and it's scary, and you know there's not much that like the everyday person can do, which is just really fucked up. Like the what I can do is like show up in my local community, which is what I'm doing. And like you know all the I don't know if people are like keeping track of what's going on in higher education, but because I work in higher education, all of the directives coming from the Trump administration, and the threat of shutting down the Department of Education, and defunding schools that focus on quote unquote diversity as like an umbrella term for like anything that's not like white male.
Mm,
um it's really really scary. And so like I do things that I know that I know will be impactful, like handing out pride flag stickers to my colleagues and being like, put this shit in your office. Like let's put pride flags, let's put trans flags, like let's hang buttons and stickers, and like you know but at the same time, like I took my pronouns out of my email at work, because I'm like, I don't because like I'm afraid of emailing a student who doesn't like my pronouns, and then they can get me fired, or they can fucking report us to the Trump administration, and my university would face like backlash in the new. It's like this is like the thought process that runs through my brain.
mm,
And the heads of all my colleagues all the time, we all talk about this. It's like, how do we walk this tightrope? We just kind of have to show up the best we can. And so that's kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of how I feel just as an author too. Like I'm writing the books. Readers, please read them and spread the word about them. Like there's
mm.
nothing I can do more than what I'm doing to spread the word. Um, People just have to show up and buy, so that LGBTQ writers can continue to publish.
Yeah. Well, I think it's incredibly important work, and I'm glad that there is such authentic representation out there that isn't afraid to handle tough topics when they come up.
Yeah,
It
it's
feels weird
important.
to side note to any other topic now.
No, I made it really heavy, and I don't know. There's a lot going on in the world these days.
There is, and it's scary, and it's unsettling that you even have to be that like conscious and wary and scared of simple decisions like sharing your pronouns. Like the fact
Yeah,
that you have to be that concerned and like the ramifications of that is just I
yeah,
mean,
it's
I'm
great. I mean,
preaching to the choir, but
yeah, it's just it's a really scary, weird world. And I don't know. I just hope people wake up.
Yeah. Dare to dream.
Yeah.
So, I guess a good tangent from that. Uh, so in They Lived, there's a lot of vulnerability about like sharing your art with one another. Was it
Mm.
hard sharing your books with the world at large and even the poetry in your books? Because I assume you're primarily a fiction writer since you're publishing books. Was it difficult for you to share like your poetry when it was not the kind of writing that maybe your readers are used to?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think it was just like I had this vision. It's specifically within They Lived, where it was gonna like interpolate, other genres. So, I have Jack's poetry and I have the fairy tale that Chase is creating in that like Brothers Grimm style. Um and I just wanted I love a mixed narrative. And I have elements of that in most of my books. Um I don't know, it's just like a different way of expressing myself and like, using poetry to like express Jack's voice when it wasn't a dual point of view, I think was important. It was an important way to convey information about who Jack was. Um and that was my mode to deliver that. Um yeah, I don't know, it's always hard. It's always hard sharing like your work, and especially like as a writer of my um stature, and my stature is not high. I'm very like middle of the road as far as sales are concerned. Like I'm not a high seller. um and sometimes that makes it harder because like when you write to publish, or you write with the end goal of getting the work out there, you hope that as many people as possible read your books. um and when you see that not happening, that's the hardest part. Like I would rather like nobody read it or everybody read it sometimes, and I know that's a stupid way to think. um but it's like I put so much of my heart and soul that I want as many people as possible to come into contact with my stories. Um, but I'm grateful, like beyond grateful for everybody who has read any of my books. Some people have read all of them. Some people have read one. And for any reader out there that has taken the chance to read my stuff and has loved what they've read, like that's why I write.
Aw, that's. Sorry, I just didn't have like words for how sweet that is. Aw.
It's true though. It's true. I mean, like literally the best parts of my days when it happens is when I get messages from readers that are like, "I just finished this book," or like, I'm in the middle of this and like, "Oh my god, this is happening and I love it." And that it makes my entire like can't I don't even have the words when that happens because I'm like, this is awesome. Like this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it feels like it sounds like it feels like being seen and that someone has resonated with your work, especially work that's so deeply personal to you. It's like they've resonated with you and you feel that kind of human connection.
Yes, that's actually a great way to put it. Is like is it's feeling seen, and like I am somebody who I don't always feel like I've felt seen in my life. And like I felt seen by certain people, but like I've not always felt like that. And yeah, it's feeling seen, and then when I see that it's something is not gaining steam, I'm like, man, like I feel invisible almost. And that's a hard place to be in mentally sometimes.
Especially when you've put so much work and heart and time and energy into your book for to feel have that feeling. I can't imagine how much like tenfold that feeling must be.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, your books are amazing, and I hope they reach literally
Thanks.
everyone. Oh,
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope they do. Please, let's speak it into
we're
existence.
gonna make it happen.
Yes.
This episode will suddenly blow up. Everyone will see it, and everyone will read your
Yes.
books.
Yes.
Disney fairy tale. Disney fairy tale.
Please, my God, the dream.
So, in When Love Gives You Lemons, I loved the Italian settings so much. The descriptions, even like the senses, like there were so many like tastes and scents and just so many cool, really specific details. I was curious if you took these from like your real life experiences or if you made them up yourself from imagining what it'd be like being there.
Yeah, everything that as far as like the descriptions, the scenery, it's all from memory because I it's all from my experiences. And I was looking back at a lot of a lot of pictures, a lot of videos that I took. Um and I mean, I'm hoping that it smells the way that I described,
Well, I
but
wouldn't be able to tell you otherwise.
great. That's wonderful. But I a lot of it's just like I obviously I did more research based on, wasn't just all based on my memory and my own pictures and, notes and everything. Like there was a lot that I ended up researching just about like, the locality of it all. Um and just trying to make sure that it is as accurate as possible. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun getting to like revisit my past in that way and like try to write something that felt like I was back there, if that makes sense. That's how I wanted it to come out. Is that like if you're reading it, you're there on the Amalfi Coast.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely picture it very easily, so I think you succeeded.
Yay.
For that kind of research, how do you, or I guess like looking back on your memories, is that, and like pictures and that sort of thing, is that all something you do up front before you write the book, or do you kind of go along as you're writing? Like if you're at a certain scene and you're like, oh, I want to look back at this specific place, do you stop writing and go research, or do it all up front?
Um I I write, and then as I'm in the middle of something, I will try my best to like so I don't break my stride. I'll just be like, you know, try to put it together from memory, and then I'll be like add more description here, and then like hold it, highlight it, but I will keep going because like if I stop, sometimes I don't get my rhythm back. So I'll just like plow through it and then go back, like, maybe like later that day or the next day, and then fill in the detail and like do the research and try to, make sure that all the details match up and line up. um but yeah, I'm a pantser in every sense of the word.
No, I think that makes sense. And especially, like you said, it can be really hard to get into that kind of writing rhythm. So you don't want to disrupt it just to go get lost in research.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, is there
Well, this is
any.
wonderful.
I'm so glad. Oh my god, it's been so amazing having you on. Thank you so much for agreeing to come.
My God, thank you for asking me. This is so much fun.
I'm so.
Great conversation.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's always the most important thing to me is always making sure our guest authors have fun because you're taking the time out of your busy schedule to like come and talk with us on your
Yeah.
expertise and journey. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
My God, anytime, please.
Yeah, so I always like to end by asking, what are you working on right now? Is there anything we can look forward to?
So, unfortunately, there's nothing coming down the pipeline right now. I'm kind of just taking an indefinite break. Um, this is not necessarily the most hopeful note in the world, but I've become a little bit disillusioned and I've lost my joy in writing, so I need to get that back again. And so that looks like me letting myself off the hook for a little while. Um, I say that and I have an idea in my head of like something that I want to write, but like I'm not pushing that at all. Like it'll happen if it happens, it'll come organically or it won't. Um but I don't want to like put any sort of pressure on myself. So I'm just kind of taking a little bit of a break. But
Oh,
so I
good.
guess what comes next is if anybody out there is listening and hasn't read any of my past books, go back to the back catalog and read through because there's some gems in there.
I have to agree. I am excited to go back and read more of your works. I wish I had had more time to read them before we talked, but alas, alas, next time.
Listen, I'm glad that you took the time to read my baby when love gives you lemons. Yeah, this is really wonderful and I appreciate this so much.
I'm so glad. And I'm glad to hear that you're taking care of yourself first and not forcing
Trying.
yourself to write when these are, to put it lightly, difficult times. I think you should
Yeah,
prioritize yourself and your own well being before looking ahead like that. So good. I'm glad for you.
thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for giving us your time tonight. I'm
Thanks
so,
for having
so
me.
happy to hear you had a good time.
Oh my god, the best.
You're gonna make me cry. Stop. But thank you so much. It really means the world to me, and I know
Oh,
our
this is
viewers
so great.
too. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Thank you. I hope
Thanks
you.
for everyone for listening and asking questions.
Yeah. They are. They are saying thanks.
Yay.
Oh, well, thank you so so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh! You guys, he was so cool! So amazing! Holy crap, holy crap! Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I was so nervous. He's so cool. He's so cool! Oh, how do I attain coolness like that in life? How does one do it? Would love to know. Oh, my tracking has frozen. One moment. Oh, when did that happen? Whoop, wait. Okay, okay. I think the tracking's back. Oh, he was so cool. That was so fun. Oh my god. What? That was just. Oh my god. See, I feel like I am so focused on being like composured and professional during the entire interview that as soon as it's over, I have to just get my nonsense out. That was so fun. Oh, I'm so glad he came on. And I'm so glad he had fun. Oh, good. These are all good things. These are all the things I want. But that is going to be the end of this episode of Talk Story to Me because I did, in fact, forget that I still have to do an ending. Probably should have saved all of my nonsense for after the official ending. But we do already have our next guest lined up. You can look forward to the announcement of who it will be. But we do already have a date set. July 7th will be our next live stream author interview. So be sure to join us then. And be sure to follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky, Talk Story to Me, to get more information and details on who our next guest author will be and how you can join and ask questions in chat. Wow, this is a more professional ending than I've ever done before. All right, y'all. See you next time. Bye! All right, that is the end of our Talk Story to Me segment. Oh, that was so fun. Also, I just realized I completely forgot that I had Twitter and Talk Story to Me posts I was going to post as soon as we went live. I guess I'll discard those. That was so fun. That was so fun. Did you guys have a good time? Did you enjoy? Y'all should read his books. They're so good. They're so good. I need to check out his other ones. Now I regret that I couldn't read more of them beforehand because I wasn't expecting him to actually say yes because I'd only read 1 out of like 5 of his books at the time that I asked him. And then, oh, oh, I need more. I need more. He's so cool. It was a good interview. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it too. I was so nervous. Oh. Did a great job, Crow. Thank you, Shadow. I think you're biased, but I will accept it anyway. I feel bad my last question may become so heavy. Not at all. I think those kinds of questions are important to ask and discuss because I feel like there are some people out there who live in this make-believe world where queerness is not hunted in these days and times, which is absolutely not the truth. So I think it's important to have those conversations to kind of bring people back to reality. Not that I think anyone here is like that, but just in general. I would never be biased on my eternally pro-Crow opinion. Sure, Shadow, sure. We are going to continue stream. I believe Phasmophobia won in the Friday with Friends poll in the Discord. Let me just double check. Hold on. Where's the thread? Oh, there it is. Phasmophobia did win. So I am going to take a short bathroom break, and then we will do Phasmophobia with friends. Smug Crow. Am I Smug Crow right now? I actually don't know what Smug Crow looks like. I was trying to emulate it. Arg, you don't have to redeem Make Crow Take a Break when I'm already going to go take a break. Oh, I was? Nice. Good. I worried when I was in the interview because my laughing looked so weird. I don't know if my tracking had already disconnected, but it was going like... It just looked very bizarre. Double break? We're not doing double breaks. I will go ahead and get Phasmo up and the lobby started. I don't know how many people are planning to join tonight. But if there are more than 3 other people, we can rotate. Otherwise, first come, first serve for the first round. And then we can always rotate out if anyone wants to join in later. But I'll go ahead and get it up. Wah! Not that. Not that!
Welcome back. I've prepared some jobs for you.
Alright. Let me go ahead and create the room, and then people can join while I am on break. No, it's not crow stuff. I just hit the wrong thing. That's all. That's all. Yeah. Okay. So here is the code. If you would like to go ahead and hop in, I'm going to go take a quick bathroom break. So I will BRB.
Welcome back. There's some jobs
I disconnected immediately, so hold on. I don't know what's been up with my internet lately. I feel like it's getting worse and worse. Maybe not have the invite. Friends chat. I can do that. I can, in fact, do that. Alright, Ah! Why do I keep disconnecting? What is happening? Someone else may need to make the lobby. Because this just ain't working.
I've gathered a list of other hunters asking for help.
Ah, crap. I didn't hit private. Ah!
Welcome back. I've got some jobs ready for you.
This time for sure. 4th time's the charm.
I've gathered a list of other
They say it's the
hunters
3rd.
asking for help.
You can't believe what they say. They are liars. Who are they? Don't question it. That's not the crow scuff emote shadow. What's happening? Alright. Posted the new code. This is actually sad now. Stop! Stop! Stop that. Gotta go on my bathroom break. Then I will return. And if I disconnect in the meantime, someone else is gonna have toast. Okay, BRB!